get up earlier and to get my breast squeezed, or or sleep in and eat some chocolate. I was almost going for the chocolate when something in my mind said, today is Valentine's Day, and the mammogram can very well be understood as an act of self-love. And then the biopsy confirmed that what I had in one of my breasts was breast cancer. My personality has always been to demand a lot from myself. And that means many times not having the kindest inner dialogue at some points. You're a badass. You're killing it. You're doing a great job. And that was not something that I was telling myself. When I then got the confirmation, and then I got all the full view of the treatment that was going to include chemotherapy and radiation in addition to surgery. I think they helped me, Anita. I think that people above helped me. And the producer hugs me and she says, I'm a survivor too. So I said, this is what I had to do. This is the message that I had to share.
Today with me is a 3-time Emmy-winning journalist, speaker, but most important for me, a dear friend, Gaby Natale. Welcome, Gaby.
Dear friend, a friend who officiated my wedding ceremony, Anita.
Yes. And there is where I want to start this conversation. We were in Argentina. We were celebrating your wedding. Tell us a little bit about that day and why it was so special.
I think that was one of the happiest days of my life, Anita, so thank you for being part of it. It was my 20th anniversary. When I first married my husband, we had a very small, casual city hall wedding in Alexandria, Virginia, where we lived at the time. The whole ceremony lasted full 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we were newcomers in a new country, and we didn't have a chance to share it with our family. We were alone. And Andy said in the home video, somebody gave us like a video camera or something like that. It was not even a videographer. And he said, one day we're going to celebrate with you, our family, like a promise. And so 20 years later, we said, like, now it's the time. Now it's the time. Our parents are not getting any younger. We want for them to be able to enjoy the ceremony, enjoy the dance floor and everything. And so it was a small, wedding, 67 people, including the groom and the bride. But it was the people who needed to be there that day at that time. And it was just beautiful.
And it was in such an amazing place. It looked like a palace. I think
it's a palace. It's called Palacio Duo. Duo Palace in Buenos Aires. And it was just the perfect venue because if you want to have a big wedding, it's the palace. It's a palace, but not such a big palace. So I think it was a perfect venue. The weather was beautiful, and you officiating there was just what we needed.
And getting to that day, to the beautiful wedding, there is a long journey that you have been going through in the U.S. With a very successful career in television, having 3 Daytime Emmys, Gaby. It's a big deal. And
as an independent producer, because I didn't have the backing or the support of a corporation. It was not that I was working for the NBCs or CBS or ABCs. It was creating something out of our own pocket, investing, and saving and investing because we believed in a dream, and being audacious enough to submit our material for competition where we were competing literally against media giants like the CNN. Mm-hmm. But I think when we do something with things with love, and intention, sometimes unexpected things happen.
Yes, and I think the majority of people are still missing that part, right? Believing in themselves and actually doing the things. Because we may have great ideas, we may want greater things, but if we don't take action, those things just stay there on the table forever. And that's something I really admire from you. You are a very driven person.
I think 2023, that year, was one of my best years in business as a speaker, corporate speaker and MC. You know, I've worked with many brands, but including the best ones, Google, Microsoft, Walmart, JP Morgan Chase, whatever category you want in terms of keynotes and leadership. These were like the best companies in the world. Also, I have my book, The Virtuous Circle, the first Latina published by the leadership division of HarperCollins. 2 months or less than 2 months after the wedding, it was a Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day 2024, I had an appointment for a mammogram. And that was the beginning of a whole new chapter of my life, because I woke up and I had that notification. I always have, like, whatever medical appointment I have, I always like to have it early in the morning so that I have the rest of the day, you know, to do whatever I want to do so that it doesn't interrupt my activities. So I got the notification early in the morning, like, remember, you have the mammogram so-and-so. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I said, it's Valentine's Day. I can sleep in and reschedule, you know, maybe do it some other day. And then eat some chocolate, you know, sleep in, eat some chocolate, reschedule. That was a great option. Or I can wake up and get my breast squeezed. Get up earlier to get my breast squeezed, or sleep in and eat some chocolate. You know, I was almost going for the chocolate when something in my mind said, today is Valentine's Day, and it's a day dedicated to love. Mm-hmm. And the mammogram can very well be understood as an act of self-love, because this is what a mammogram or every medical visit or every time we put our health first is, an act of self-love. And I'm so happy that I did that act of self-love with myself, because unfortunately the results didn't come as we anticipated. We had first the mammogram, then a sonogram, then a biopsy, and then the biopsy confirmed that what I had in one of my breasts was breast cancer.
Were you prepared for something like that, Gaby?
Not at all.
Especially coming from that year, right?
I was not prepared at all, and let me tell you something. When I had the mammogram and then the sonogram that same day, the radiologist, the radiologist came and he said, I want to tell you something. You know, I was in La La Land still with the things that you're using for the clothes you're using for the examination and everything. And he said, I want to tell you something. I want you to see this. This looks suspicious. We want to check it out. And I said, okay. And he said, we're going to need to have a biopsy. And I was in such La La Land, Anita, that I said, you know what? Maybe the biopsy could be a good opportunity in the next months to visit my family in Argentina. And then I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know why. I said, like, I could make something good out of this, like a vacation or something. I don't know why. And so the doctor stopped me right there because he realized I did not really fully understood what was going on. Mm-hmm. And so he said, you're not understanding this, lady. You are going to need an oncologist, a surgeon, and a pathologist. You're going to need a medical team because based on what we're seeing, this is highly suspicious. And we need to have the biopsy done as soon as possible. And I was like, what? Like in my mind, 5 minutes before, all I was thinking about is, am I going to have regular coffee or a decaf on my way back home? You know, if I'm grabbing a Starbucks, what am I grabbing? So yes, it's one of those moments when even when I didn't have the confirmation, because the confirmation comes when you have the biopsy, I think that doctor saw enough in my exams to be very convinced that, you know, things were not looking good.
You go home, you tell your husband what happened, or do you need a moment to process first?
Yes, you kind of need a moment to process. And then I went back home, but also I knew that I had dense tissue. There's something that's called dense breast, dense tissue. So that makes it more likely, you know, to develop breast cancer. And also, my mother is a breast cancer survivor. So, you know, all of that, I didn't expect the news, but it could happen, you know. And Andy, my husband, was like in denial. He was like, no, this doctor is exaggerating. I'm sure he's missing the mark. How can he know? We never did a biopsy. But in hindsight, I am so appreciative of that to that doctor because he prepared me mentally to go to the biopsy knowing that it was, it was a possibility. And I just want to say 80% of the biopsies are not cancer. Even when people go to a biopsy and they are so scared, 80% of the times it's nothing to worry about, or at least it's not cancer. But then there's this 20%. So we were thinking like, okay, more than likely it's the 80%, not the 20%. But it was the 20%.
Speaking of biopsy, a lot of people don't even go to that appointment and they are afraid. Because just by hearing the word biopsy, we associate that word with cancer, right? And also there are a lot of myths, but they say it's a very painful procedure.
It's all in your mind. In all honesty, they put some anesthesia very lightly, and then they have a little needle, and they get a little sample from that liquid in your breast to analyze. I mean, it's uncomfortable, just like a mammogram. It's uncomfortable, but I wouldn't say it's really something that you are in great pain.
And it's the last test you need to confirm something and to start taking action.
Exactly, because with that sample, it goes to the pathologist and they can know exactly, what is going there.
So you get the results from the biopsy. Was it like another shocking news for you, another process to go through?
And I was in the middle of doing a lot of speaking, Anita, because this is the crazy part. When things start to happen and you get a health crisis or different things, your life keeps happening. It's not like your life stops. You are making decisions because you still don't have all the information. So I remember, for example, in the beginning that I was doing the first consultation that I was doing, I was still traveling to honor my commitments with my clients. And so I did the first consultation, like a virtual one, with the first doctor that was available, that was a specialist. And it was a doctor in Argentina. And I did it from the Centurion Lounge in the airport, asking all kinds of personal questions like, am I going to be able to keep my breasts? What is my survival rate? All of that really should be done in the privacy of an office. But I was flying, and the sooner I got the information, the better. So it was kind of crazy. And it was a little bit of an exercise of, I didn't know I had the capacity of compartmentalizing myself and knowing that in the background there was all these health developments happening. But at the same time, I had to travel, go on those stages, deliver for the people who trusted me and hired me. And so what happened was that you were asking me for the biopsy. I knew I had to travel. So when the doctor called me and said, hey, I need to talk to you, I said, I have to travel. And I know if you're calling me, it's probably not a good news. So I'm going to go to your office right now. Tell me what you have to tell me. But please, 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 whatever you have to say to me, I need for it to be said today, because then I start to travel and I don't want to have this, I want to know before leaving, for good or for bad, I want to know before leaving. And so that's when they told me, the confirmation is here, and they referred me to the surgeon so that we could start talking about the surgery and how the surgery is going to look like. And then I finished doing that, and then the following day I had to travel first to San Antonio, then to New York for 2 different engagements for clients. And then I remember my producer at the time, he didn't know anything that was happening. So this was all happening behind closed doors. And I remember I had a second consultation that was a virtual one. And I was in my hotel room. We had already done all the work for the client. It was 1 day of leadership training for a cosmetic company for their headquarters. And then the following day we were leaving, And I said, I have a very important call. I'm going to be in my room. So please, don't text me, don't nothing. And then the doctor kept delaying the call. Like let's say it was scheduled for 11 and then for 12. And so the people in the hotel started saying, room service, check out. You need to check out. And I had to reschedule that call. And I was very upset because I was in a hotel. I needed to leave the room. I couldn't stay for longer because I needed to go to the airport. And my producer didn't understand what was going on. And I was upset. I said, how did your call go, Gaby? Like, very innocent. I had a bad call. And he thought it was like a bad call with a client.
Like work related,
yes.
Money related.
Yes. So in my mind, I was thinking of communicating this to my producer, like in a organized way.
Quiet place. Mm-hmm.
And we were in the Uber going to Newark. And he said, like, what happened with that client? Why are you so upset? And I said, like, I can't continue lying, because this guy needs to know if my life is going to change for now, many things are going to change. So I told him, on the way to Newark, I have bad news for you. I have cancer. And I want you to know because it's probably going to affect my work and yours. And he didn't expect that news to be delivered on the way to Newark. But sometimes, you can plan and you can hope. But also I felt like I needed to be transparent because it was going to affect him as well.
So there are a couple of things that I really admire of you, Gaby, since I know you, that it's over 16 years now. I met you when I was pregnant from my first kid, who is 16 now. One is that you're a very driven person, very passionate person. You're very confident, but also you care so much for people. And in this situation, yes, you are thinking about yourself. And of course, you are upset because you want to hear what's the next step from the doctor. But also you are concerned about what's going to happen to my producer's job if I lose my job. Mm-hmm. Where do you get that strength from, Gaby?
I think during this journey, when I then got the confirmation and then I got all the full view of the treatment that was going to include chemotherapy and radiation in addition to surgery. I think they helped me, Anita. I think that people above helped me because I was in a way, a peaceful state. I was not mad. My husband was so mad. Like, why is this happening to you? You're a good person. This is so unfair. And I don't know, maybe because my mother is also a breast cancer survivor and she's a great person, like bad things can happen to good people as well. And also my diagnosis, was not the worst. I had early detection. And that's why I'm so intentional in sharing my journey, talking about it, being open about it, because we always think if there's one person who was going to cancel the mammogram and now is doing it and it can be life-saving, so it's so worth it. And when I started sharing all of this, because in the beginning, and I don't know if I told you this, I didn't tell my family.
You didn't tell anyone. I found out like when you were completely safe.
Well, I didn't tell my family because they live far away. And then I said, like, they can't help me. All they can do is have a bad time, and feel terrible. Mm-hmm. So what I did, and this was my strategy. I don't know if it was a good strategy or a bad strategy, but this is what I did, is I waited until after the surgery to tell my mom. And so and it was horrible because I was living a double life. And then my father came to visit me, and he was celebrating his 75th birthday here in Dallas, not knowing that I will wake up and go and having a biopsy, go having an MRI. I would say, I'm going to a business meeting. And mi facha, you would see, I would say, I'm going to a business meeting. And I could barely go. So I was like in sweatpants and the hair was a disaster. And I said, I'm so lucky that the one that is here is visiting is my father and not my mother. Because if I would say, I'm going to a business meeting.
Looking like that.
And my mother would look like, is she going looking like that to a business meeting? Like she would be like this. She would know like that, that something was not adding up.
We cannot lie to moms.
No.
We moms know everything. Yes.
So what happened was that it was months of keeping it to ourselves, like just my husband and I, and then my brother, Francisco, who you know, he knew, because I needed for him to know, because if my surgery was at the same time my father was visiting, we had come up with a plan, you know, to make up like I have to travel or something like that. So but that didn't happen. So I went through surgery. The surgery was successful. And then I came back from the surgery. I sat on my backyard, which always gives me a lot of peace.
Yes.
And I said, now I'm going to call my mom. And she was not happy about it, you know, and I said, how is the best way to share news that you know is going to break the heart of somebody that you know and that you love? So my best guess was to tell Mom, I have a good news and a bad news. And I said, the bad news is that I had cancer, but the good news is I just came out from surgery and I'm fine.
Only Gaby. But Gaby, why you kept hiding this from everybody?
I think it's a couple of things. With my parents, yes, I wanted to be protective of them. But then also, when you're going through something like that, I know there's people who say, hey, I'm going to have a biopsy or a mammogram. Send me good vibes, send prayers, because that is what helps them in that moment. For me, I have to carry other people's anxiety if I share the news before even having the answer. Because people are going to ask questions and I don't even have the basic answers until I have all the information. So for me, and every patient is different, so for me, it's easier to be in a peaceful state of mind when I am processing, because it's hard to communicate something that you're barely processing, to answer questions when you don't have the answers to those questions. So I needed to kind of regroup a little bit, you know, have more of a clear idea of how the treatment would look, and knowing that that the surgery was successful, and I would feel more confident sharing that once I had some of the, not every answer, but some of the answers people would ask me. And also that's when I reached out to Susan G. Komen. And it was like an impulse. And I said, like, I'm going to reach out, and I sent an email to the president of Susan G. Komen, which is a very big organization for breast cancer awareness and prevention. And I said, it's a cold email. I sent a cold email. Her name is Paula Schneider. Never talked to her before that email. And I said, hi, Paula, this is who I am. This is what happened to me. Use me. Let me know how I can help. And that's how I became an official Susan G. Komen ambassador, which is a great honor, because the work that they do for women, it's really amazing.
And you are one of the few ones that speak Spanish.
Yes.
That is communicating with the Latino community, that we know that we are the community that suffers the most with this type of diagnosis. Not because we are the ones that get the cancer the most, but because we are the...
What happens with Latinas is that we get detected at a later stage. It's not that we have more cancer. It's just that we get diagnosed and detected at a later stage. And that has multiple reasons. Some of the reasons is sometimes we don't do our checkups on time or as regularly. Some other reasons are access to health, because everything costs money. Some other reasons are cultural. There's still people in our culture who think that you have to go to the doctor when you're in pain. It's not about prevention. So there's multiple factors, but we do know statistically that Latinas get diagnosed at a later stage.
What was happening in the hospital? Because going through chemotherapy, it's a big deal.
Yes.
It is a big deal. And how was that process for you to learn about it?
Originally, I didn't know I was going to go through chemo. But when the pathologist exam came back after my surgery, they said, preventively, I think you would benefit. They always make you make the decision. You make the decision. They told me, like, they have everything, like, this is your recurrence risk. If you don't have chemotherapy, this is your recurrence rate risk if you do have if you only do radiation. And so if I combined chemotherapy and radiation and then tamoxifen, the pills that we have to take for many years, then the recurrence rate was about 5%. So I said, like, yeah, I'm going to do it because I can benefit.
It's my life.
I can benefit from it. And so I remember I had the conversations. They told me we're going to install something that's called a chemo port. Some people do it through, the veins in their arms. They told me, like, for me, it was going to be more comfortable with a chemo port. So they install a port.
What we see as a patch-looking thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And then, they don't know how your body is going to react. So the first session, it's called infusion. Yeah, what we talk about, new vocabulary. So the first infusion, they go slower, they test, they see how your body feels and everything. And also, of course, they are going to prepare you because that image that your hair is going to fall, it's not true for every chemotherapy because there's types of chemotherapy that are pills. There's types of, there are different kinds of drugs, but it was true for my own. And I remember that the doctor asked me because now they have something that is called the ice cap, and it's like a helmet that you put with ice. And like if you're doing the chemotherapy with that helmet, it's less likely that your hair is going to fall. And so it's a very valid option. But something inside of me, Anita, said, like, this is an experience that life is presenting to you. I want to go through the experience in the way that 99% of the women around the world go, which is without the privilege of the ice cap, so that I can understand them better when I am in the other side of this process.
Losing your hair and going through that shocking physical, but also when you observe yourself in the mirror, it's mentally shocking too, right?
And I said, before it starts to fall, I'm just going to, I'm just going to take it out. So, the hairstylist that we both share, Valentina Felipe, came to my home. Came to my home. They were so loving. We cut my hair, and then it was the moment of truth. We had to shave it.
Were there tears when you?
It was moving, but what happened is that my husband took me by surprise because he shaved his head as well. So it was like, it was a special moment. And we recorded it. And then, of course, in Gaby Natale's fashion, what did I do after that?
A photo shoot.
A photo shoot.
Of course.
Because I said, like, all my life, I've had experimented with my image and my hair. I've been blonde, I've been brunette, short hair, long hair, curly hair, platinum hair. And then I said, like, life is giving me a haircut that I don't know if I was going to choose or not. So let's just make the most out of it and let's have a freaking photo shoot.
I love it, Gaby. You see, like, you always see joy in everything, amiga. And you always face it, like, with the best of you.
With the best of me, it doesn't mean that it was not a tough process. It was a tough process. But let me tell you something, Anita. My personality has always been to demand a lot from myself. And that means many times not having the kindest inner dialogue at some points. And that, yo le llamo la peladita, the baldy. That version of myself, la peladita, is the one I'm the most proud of. Because that is the version who spoke to herself in the most loving way I have experienced in my life. La peladita, she looked at herself in the mirror and said, "You're a badass. You're killing it. You're doing a great job." And that was not something that I was telling myself in my regular version, you know? It was always like, you did 9 things well and one was not, perfect. Why? Tell me the explanation about this one. So I was like sometimes having some inner dialogues that were not as caring with myself. And that's why I'm so proud of that version, because it was the version where really, when you have to put yourself out there, and believe in yourself, and you're there hoping for the best. And I saw myself beautiful. And I saw, I want to say something. There's a market for women who are bold, because I got hit on the gym and on the airports. There's guys who love bold women.
Really?
Yes.
Every time I talk to you, I learn new things, Gaby.
Yes, and also what I did, because I love self-expression, is I also made like a style, so not everybody could suppose that it was a health-related thing. They may say it is, or maybe it's not. But because I was kind of decorating all my looks and everything, it would be just a style.
Yes, and you did it. You were still on stages.
Yes.
You were still working. You were still smiling to everybody.
What I did is, when I was going through chemotherapy, I had to slow down. But I got a request to do a keynote, and it was here in Dallas, and it was a beautiful, beautiful event, a beautiful stage and everything. And it was the day before my last chemo round. So I talked to the doctor and I said, "Are you okay if I do this?" Because my doctor, the oncologist, he would say, "Act like nothing is wrong. Keep on with your life. Act like nothing is wrong." And I think it was a great advice. And she said, "When you feel tired, you sleep. When you feel okay, you keep on with your life. That's all you have to do." And I think it was great, because instead of saying like, now your life is over, now you cannot do anything, you do as much as you can with the energy that you have. So that was my first official keynote speech, cancer-free. And I said, I'm not going to tell the client. I'm not going to tell the Speakers Bureau. But at the end of the keynote, if I really feel like it, I'm going to just reveal that this is my first cancer-free keynote, that this is a special event and a special audience I will never forget. And I'm just going, like in the movies, to remove the wig, and wave it. And I was seeing that, when you're on stage, you have something that is called the confidence monitor. And the confidence monitor is a clock, and you can see, 10 minutes left, 5 minutes. And in my mind, I was doing the keynote, and I said, like, the time for decision is coming, 3 minutes.
You were more excited about those last 2 minutes than the whole speech. You used to remove your wig.
And I said, like, there's one chance in your life to live what you may experience today, because I hope this doesn't happen again. And this is your first cancer-free keynote. So go for it. You survived something that is not easy to survive. So just go for it. Remove the wig and just mark the moment. And I have it on video and everything. You should see those people's faces.
I saw the photo. We are going to share the photo here with you guys too. But we can see the faces of the people. We see you.
The jaw dropping to the floor. And the emotion. It was a very special moment. And let me tell you something, Anita. Before doing that, until the last minute, I was seeing the clock and in the confidence monitor, the countdown, and I was like, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? And I always feel like I believe in signals.
Yes.
Remove the wig, wave it. and then you step out the stage, and there's a producer there that is assigned to walk you from the stage. And the producer hugs me and she says, I'm a survivor too. So I said, like, this is what I had to do. This is the message that I had to share. And I cannot tell you, Anita, how many people reached out to me when I did it public, reached out to me for not just for thanking me, but sharing stories. There's people who are going through different diagnoses day in and day out, and the people around them don't know.
Yes, and also, what a better way to inspire, Gaby, that sharing your vulnerability and also a real story. You show the world that when you love something and you are so passionate about it, no matter the circumstances, you go for it.
There's people who are living with cancer and are working and are contributing and are doing their thing. I just want people to know that there's a whole spectrum of diagnosis, you know. And I know cancer is a word that scares people, but you have to know that it doesn't mean that it has to be terminal, that it has to be terrible, that it has to be something that doesn't have a treatment, you know. So every day there's people who get diagnoses, and I think I was maybe a little bit more calm because I am the daughter of a breast cancer survivor. And I have my mom, and she's now 2 times a breast cancer survivor. So I have my mom because of early detection. And maybe that's why, you know, I was a little bit more calm because I saw success stories around me.
So something that happened during this process of breast cancer is something that also shocked your life. And we started this episode talking about menopause. Mm-hmm. And I have to be honest with you, Gaby. Every time I hear the word menopause before, I ignore it. Mm-hmm. I thought menopause meant like all women, right? And that was not my issue yet. And I was so busy living my life and trying to achieve my goals that I didn't have time for menopause. I will take care of it when I turn 50. And finally, we have people like you using your own experiences to talk about breast cancer and also menopause, because you have to. You had to face menopause earlier than expected, along with the breast cancer
So what
process.
happened is that I had a medically induced menopause. So sometimes as a result of medical treatments or a chemotherapy, we as patients, we experience, you know, medically induced menopause. And so I started doing some research like, okay, so now what, you know? And I started looking for information. There was information in English, few and scattered, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. There were doctors, there were advocates, there was the Mayo Clinic, there were brands who were targeting women with different products. So I was like, what is this word? It's like, it looks like I have to go to a lot of places, you know, to actually understand what is the ABC and also where are the solutions. And then in Spanish, it was like a desert.
Nothing, yeah.
A desert. And in all honesty, Anita, we looked for the domain menopausia.com, which is the word menopause in Spanish, and we were shocked that the domain was available, because it is a testament to how neglected women's health is. Because I'm sure if you Google today now cars.com, food.com, sandwich.com, travel.com, whatever word, simple word like .com, it's taken. And that's when I decided to build what I called the home for menopausia.com, the home for menopause. It's the first bilingual platform for all things menopause and perimenopause, because what we understood is that, like you, so many women are starting to have symptoms, and symptoms of perimenopause, which is the transition once your estrogen starts to drop, the hormonal transition starts, and that transition can start as early as mid-30s. And when you are in your mid-30s, if you're having symptoms, you're not associating that with the perimenopause or menopause transition, exactly because of what you said. Because what you see in the advertising, what you see in the doctor's office and everything, is an image of somebody who is una abuelita, you know, somebody who is so much older. and so you don't connect the dots. But the reality is, so let's go with the facts. The reality is that the average age for menopause on women is 51. For Latinas is 48. And you don't have to look like an abuelita when you are 48.
Yeah.
We don't look like abuelitas,
And we're very
I'm very close.
Very
I'm
close.
47, so
Yes.
I'm going to be 48 next year. In menopausia.com, we don't have images of women waving like this, putting their hand in their forehead like that. We never have images of women losing in life. We don't want images of women who are being disempowered associated with menopause. Because let me tell you something, Anita. The fact is that menopause coincides with the highest points in a woman's career. So this is the moment when you make the most money. This is your moment when you have the biggest responsibility at work. This is the moment when your leadership is at your peak. So why are we portraying women losing in life when it's the moment when they're peaking the highest?
Age is an enemy of women culturally.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived it very close with media. We both come from traditional
Yes.
media. The older you get, the less opportunities in media, for example.
But we have to challenge that, Anita.
Yes, and there is a lot of women changing that, especially coming from the Latino community. That was the standard. And I was so mad, Gaby, when I saw like, okay, you look too old now. Or when I hear things like, oh, she's younger, she will look, he will be better for this role or whatever. And I look at the mainstream media, and they were women in their 30s, 40s, and they were doing an amazing job. And we have been working really hard. Like, we are part of those women that are really fighting against those cultural
we have
labels.
to change the narrative.
Yes.
And let me tell you something, Anita. What's special about the menopause movement and the perimenopause movement is that we are the healthiest, wealthiest generation that is going through menopause and perimenopause. And the very first one who is going through this and has the power of social media and the internet. My mom and my abuelitas didn't have the internet and social media. We have it. So I think we have the power to be the generation that changes the cultural conversation.
And to advocate, because something that really shocked me too is when I started experiencing these things.
And you're very open about it. You're very transparent.
And I didn't even know what's going on, Gaby. A couple years ago, I'm 43 now. When I turned around 41, I will say, also I was coming from a very difficult stage on my personal life as well. I had my second baby, and he had medical issues. So I thought what I was feeling was part of the process. And I think it's what you thought, maybe because I went through the process of breast cancer, I was going through postpartum depression and so many other things, but I started feeling those hot flashes. I was losing my memory. I consider myself someone with a very good memory. Like, I was able to memorize scripts, like 3-4 minute scripts for the work that we do. And suddenly I couldn't remember things. I got lost a couple times.
Your body may feel different.
I put
insomnia.
a lot of weight in, and I wasn't understanding because I was eating the same. So I was like, and I felt guilty because I was like, I'm trying to eat the best possible, and I still
whatever
keep
you were
getting
doing,
bigger.
whatever you were doing in the past that worked, it's not working now, and it's like you punish yourself, like what's going on, and it's just that the plan needs to change. For example, for women in menopause and perimenopause, lifting weights, it's more important than cardio because you need to build that muscle and you need to protect your bone. For women in perimenopause and menopause, protein is key. So it's like we have to change the strategies because our body has changed. And for example, before menopause, maybe we're more likely to have fat stored in la colita, in the glutes, And when you start this transition and the estrogen drops, it's more likely to be in the midsection, So there's a lot of different changes, but we just have to inform ourselves, take action, take control. And my mission with menopausia.com is for women to know that this could be the start of a wonderful chapter in their lives. I think we are body, mind, and soul. And so, yes, we can adjust with the body. You can go to the doctor and maybe, address the hot flashes. But if in your mind you're thinking, this is the worst chapter of my life and my life is going downward in a decay, and then in your soul you feel depleted, like, okay, this is all it is in life, then just managing your symptoms is not going to be enough.
We have seen now a lot of doctors, especially female doctors, speaking about how the medical industry didn't give this aspect of women's health the importance it has.
Doctors, on average, when they graduate, they receive less than 4 hours of menopause training. So if they haven't done the homework, of studying it themselves or getting certified themselves or being curious, they are behind, And on average, in the United States, a woman has to go to 3 to 4 doctors to get the solutions she needs for menopause or perimenopause. And not everybody has the time, the money, or the personality, because too many times, especially in our community, is la palabra sagrada, lo dijo el doctor. Whatever the doctor said, we're never going to challenge it. But the doctors, they do the best that they can to their abilities. They are not gods. They are doctors. So, if you don't feel like whatever the doctor is saying makes sense for you, or you're not getting the solutions that you want, knock on more doors.
Yeah. And also communities that are going through the same thing. Once I started talking about how I was feeling, most of my friends started sharing the same experiences, and they were feeling the same, and they were living those horrible moments alone and ashamed and hiding things. And yes, it is true. Some of them even got divorced.
I always feel like if there's something in the world that you think should exist, and you don't find it, why not create it? And that was the story. And we meet women where they are, because we know we need to start also with the education. So we have some segments that are the ABC of menopause, the ABC of perimenopause, because some women are not even familiar with the basic content and about what it is. We have our blog with scientific information in both English, and everything is in both languages, English and Spanish. To address the isolation and the shame, we have a forum, so we have a community. And then something that we created that is very innovative is the Meno Shop. So we have a shop where, because we don't know what we don't know, it's a shop where you're not browsing by category, you're browsing by symptom.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, okay, I'm having hot flashes, or I'm having problems sleeping. Because we don't know what products we need, we don't know what categories we need, but we do need what symptoms we're having. Not around the categories, but around the solutions that you need for your specific symptom.
Something I learned this morning while I was preparing for this interview, and it shows how neglected this area is in the medical industry and culturally too. Like, no one likes talking about menopause. No one feels like it's their issue. And I was that person before. Like, I'm 30, I'm 20
but it's
something.
Changing.
It's changing. And I love it. But it comes from many, many years before. Back on the days, they used to call, esa mujer está histérica, right? Hysterical. She's hysterical. And they associate whatever women were feeling with, she's just hysterical. They will just put a label, and they thought they will solve the problem that way. Hysteria, and it comes
from the uterus.
It comes from the Greek uterus. And what people don't know is that the uterus is so connected with the brain and the way women function, like day to day, that we keep ignoring it. But if we really focus on this important thing that is menopause, we are not just addressing the symptoms, but we are also addressing the way women are living their lives until our last minute.
And I want women to be leaders. I want women to be living a life that is fulfilled for them, living their best life. And I want women to challenge. We sometimes are tan mansas. We just accept what we are told. And I think we need to be more rebellious, we need to be bold, and we need to challenge what culture says. Because, across cultures, women have always been, the value of women has always been identified with beauty and fertility. Mm-hmm. And when time goes by, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. For me, you can be beautiful until you're 100 years old if you want to. So that's in the eye of the beholder. But fertility, fertility is objective. And, there's a moment when we don't have our fertility anymore. So if for a society, all we are is beauty and fertility, and we don't have beauty or fertility, or beauty in the traditional youthful terms, and fertility, what is really our worth? What are we going to contribute to the world? Because if I believe that, I'm worthless. That's why it's so important to challenge all those knowledge, all those ideas, and know that we have to define our own self-worth in each stage of our own life.
And all the stages are beautiful, right?
All those stages are beautiful.
And the older we get, the more excited I am for what is coming.
Mm-hmm. The women that I admire the most, I like Jane Fonda. I like some Argentinian TV hosts that are in their 80s, even 90s, and they are so fabulous. Because for me, I connect more with that lived life, that larger than life persona, than with somebody who is youthful and it's the hot chick of the summer. It's great to be the hot chick of the moment, and the young and fresh and new and cool. But what moves me is when I see somebody, men or women, it could be men as well, but when I see somebody who's had a very rich life and they have something interesting to share.
And they are the ones that we learn from, right? They are the ones that have the wisdom. Well, now menopausia.com is available with a lot of information, resources, English and Spanish. And Gaby, I know you are preparing even more things where people can follow you. And I'm going to close with something very special for you.
Okay. So where can they find me? Well, if they're looking for information on menopausia, it's menopausia.com. Menopausia.com would be in English. My own website is gabynatale.com, GABYNATALE.com. Social media, Gaby Natale. And I think that's pretty much it.
I also want to share something. I found out about your cancer almost at the end of the year. But I knew, Gaby, like something amazing was coming because I know you very well. And yes, I was scared. And the first time I saw you after the diagnosis, we just went in the floor and we cried together.
We were in an event. It was like a fancy promotional event. We were both there. They were serving food and everything. We went both together in the bathroom, closed the door, hugged each other, and started crying.
Because I needed to release all that energy, all that fear, all that incertidumbre. Mm-hmm. But also, I knew you were creating something amazing because that's just the way you are, amiga.
Thank you, Anita.
And I think you are very sure what your purpose in this life is. But I see your purpose since the day I met you. And it's creating and it's impacting lives, but also it's living your life to the max, amiga. And a lot of us need to learn that from you. And we don't need to wait until we get a diagnosis to live that way, because we never know. There is people with no diagnosis and dying every day.
We never know. Thank you, Anita. Te adoro. I like a quote from an author that I really admire, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who says, "Don't die with the music still in you." And that is one of my biggest fears. Yeah, you see me trying new things and doing all of that. And a part of that is because I don't want to feel when, the time comes that there was a lot of music inside of me and I didn't give it the chance to come out.
Pues hay que sacarla toda, amiga. Let's start singing. Thank you so much for coming to my podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching the episode. And remember to share. There is a lot of people out there that need to learn about breast cancer and need to learn about menopause. Please help us spreading the word and changing women's life. Because when you change women's life, you change the entire society. Thank you so much, amiga.
Thank
and I
you.
love you so
Gracias.
much.
Te amo, Anita. Thank
This
you.
is Ana Cruz Show. See you next time.